antagonist. Ironside is not the boss. Mm-hmm. He's a henchman.
He's a henchman.
But he's still a great henchman antagonist.
He's
Does that make sense?
Man.
Yeah. Like, he's like Gary Busey Under Siege. But I think, I also like this movie, though. It adds humor into it, but it's also extremely bloody. I mean,
It is. It's very gory.
I mean, the shootouts in this movie are nuts. And I like the fight scenes. I like where it goes. I like the intelligence of it. So, for me, I couldn't add it in tier 1 to tier 2 because I think this movie's more memorable for its themes and its one-liners than it is for the overall action, but it's a great action movie.
It's a good escape film.
Yeah.
If you like to escape into that type of stuff.
And so I had to put it tier 3. I think people might argue that it could be tier 1, tier 2, or might not even be on the list, but I had to add it. And now this is my biggest stretch of all of my movies, and this is tier 3. And I think a little bit of my favoritism played in because I'm a huge Robert Rodriguez homer. I read his book, Rebel Without a Crew. I love him on the chef show where he makes chocolate and pizza for Jon Favreau, which is awesome. I also love El Mariachi. I think that's a very good movie, but it's Desperado. And I put it in tier 3 because partially, it was something different for me in 95 to see this movie. Like, just see the vibe of it. Like, I hadn't really immersed myself in this kind of world. Like, seeing Antonio Banderas felt new to me. Does that make sense? Like, you're watching Stallone, you're watching JCVD, but then to see Banderas and, like, the setting, and Danny Trejo throwing knives.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't... I think especially in the mid-90s, he's almost the Latin version of a Keanu Reeves. Like, you didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, when... did Assassins come out?
Later.
94?
Yeah.
No, 96.
96.
So it was after this.
Yeah.
So, like, this... I'd have to go back and look, but I feel like this kind of launched Banderas as an action star.
And, 90s, you're watching this, though. I went and bought throwing knives after this movie. Threw it into a tree, bounced off the tree, almost landed in my foot. But you watch this... When I was 13, watching the scene, like Salma Hayek, and... I mean, this is like a pretty sexy movie, too, man.
It is.
But the violence is really over the top as well. And then he joins up with his buddies later on from El Mariachi. And then they get killed, the guitar case shooting bullets. Horribly impractical.
Rocket launcher.
Yes. Horribly impractical. But it's just so, like hard-boiled. Cool. Yeah, it's like... It's Hong Kong cinema... as seen by Robert Rodriguez. And just seeing that remember when that guy squats down on the side?
He launches it and he squats down with one leg stretched out to the side.
And the other guy's just taking his guitar. And then when they get killed...
And they're just smiling at each other.
When people get shot, I didn't even know who these guys were. And it affected me. So I think... I love this movie, dude. And so I had to put it tier 3.
I don't think it does... especially you go back and you look at especially the top of your tier 3 with The Rock, but then tier 1 and tier 2. It doesn't do anything spectacular, but all the small things it does really good.
Yeah.
So it's the utility position in baseball. It does everything.
Yep. It's the Ben Zobrist.
It's the Swiss Army knife of action movies. It does everything really good, but at least in my opinion, nothing great.
Yeah.
Which is still a compliment to it. It's able to mix all these different things together.
How excited were you
film.
For what? The Once Upon a Time in Mexico, when that came out?
I was very excited
I bought the poster before I saw the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, another one with, I don't know why Johnny Depp was in it. I just wanted more Banderas. But I was, oh my gosh, because I love Desperado so much. But I think you're right. I think it's super stylish, but I don't think it did anything hard-boiled. Didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the knife throwing scene.
The knife throwing stuff in it, and then you've got the random Mexican gang member with the injured knee.
Yeah.
For the longest time I was like, I like this kid. What's gonna happen? Is he gonna get out? Well, no one escapes.
Yeah.
But it's you don't you just feel for these tertiary characters that are involved with it too, and there's nothing to them. But yeah, I think it just does everything well.
It's a complete opposite.
It's a good, solid tier 3 film.
I'm happy. I couldn't put it any higher, but I couldn't put it any lower. I know that's weird, but I couldn't. If it was in tier 5, I'd be like, no, that doesn't feel right.
No, it deserves this spot.
All right,
Steve Buscemi's in it.
Oh, yeah.
You forget about that
and then
a lot.
Cheech Marin, Quentin Tarantino.
Yep.
All right, so tier 4. This is Luc Besson. It's Fifth Element.
Ooh.
Now this.
Okay.
It's a sci-fi movie, right? But there's a lot of on-the-ground action. There's, you have the flying cars, but then you have the massive battle at the end with the aliens. You have Leeloo Dallas kicking the crap out of people. It's super stylized.
Corbin Dallas!
And also...
Chris Tucker.
He also did La Femme Nikita, the director, Luc Besson, and Lucy, and he did Valerian, which I love.
Didn't he do Leon?
Yeah, he did Leon. And so this movie, I had to have some Luc Besson, but just watching this movie, I think of all the 90s action films, this is in the top 5 of movies that have lived on.
Yeah.
Because people love Leeloo Dallas. Everyone knows Multipass, right? Like the weirdness of it.
I think that's I feel like this probably could be bumped up into a tier 3, and some of this is probably my Bruce Willis favoritism getting involved, but the movie is just weird.
Yeah.
It's especially, like, I remember watching this. I don't think I watched it, would it come out in 97?
Gary Oldman's performance is on another world.
Like, I don't remember watching this in theaters, but I remember buying it on VHS.
Mm-hmm.
And loving it, but also thinking at the same time, like, this is weird. Like, this is so much better than it has any right to be.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be this good of a movie, but it is.
And just the opening car chase.
The taxis, like the flying taxis. I mean, it's just weird. There's so many odd elements that are thrown into this. Like, the Basin was
the guy
just
with
like,
the broken nose.
I want to do it all, and I want to cram it into this movie.
And that's what it was. I mean,
give me Bruce Willis and Gary Oldman, and let's do it.
He got so much money for this movie. They gave him tons of money to make this, and it just works. I think it's ahead of its time. I think the CGI still holds up, and I think the weirdness of it. Mm-hmm. I saw several Chris Tucker cosplayers at Dragon Con. So
yeah,
it's a very, I think it's so weird, but I also think the action hits hard and it's very memorable. So next is Rumble in the Bronx, 95. I mean, this is what Tarantino introduced me to, but just watching Jackie Chan.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't in the Bronx, but just watching him, this was my first experience. I don't think it's his best movie.
And I'm trying to remember this correctly. He gets the crap beat out of him in the beginning of this movie, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, that's the scene that's always stuck with me. It's like you always think of the hero making it out of every situation, and he just gets pummeled. Again, it's by like 50 guys, but he just gets absolutely demolished.
It's awesome.
And that's what I remember most from this movie.
In the 90s, that never happened, right? Like, you're not used to your heroes getting pummeled in the 90s. And so just watching this movie, I just think I love the fight, the gaggy fight inside the grocery store, the hovercraft. It's just a big, bold,
hovercraft,
fun.
Yes.
So this was my first experience with Jackie Chan, and I wasn't used to the humor of it all. I mean, this is like a animated film, and it was almost like I've used the term ballet. It's like an animated ballet of violence. It's not overly mean. It's just there to give you fun action. Yeah. Right. My next one's Face Off. This is John Woo's best American film. So he came in with Broken Arrow. All I remember from that is John Travolta smoking cigarettes, Howie Long being somewhat good, and Howie Long getting kicked out of the train. That was a cool visual.
Yeah.
Then he did Hard Target. Well, he did Hard Target, then Broken Arrow. Hard Target, Chance Boudreaux.
Another JCVD that
mullet.
Hard Target was pretty brutal, though.
He punches a snake.
He does punch a snake. And isn't... Oh, man, what's his name? The guy from Millennium.
Lance Hendrickson?
Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah. And Oded Fair is really good in it. I mean, it's fun. But this one, though, is Travolta and Cage at the height of their powers. The height of their powers. And this movie's so weird. There's a prison escape with metal boots.
Yeah.
There's weird...
the murdering convict that then all of a sudden you want to live.
Yeah.
That's helping Cage escape. It's interesting.
And then the end boat chase where they're on a boat hitting each other with anchors. And then the gunfight to Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah. With the little kid with his soundproof, noise canceling mid-90s headphones on.
Now, once again, I don't think this movie does anything new. It introduces the face-off. The reason this movie's so much fun is because they swap roles and the actors are having fun. I don't think
you get it. That's true. I mean, you get to see both guys act as good guys and both guys act as bad guys.
I don't think it introduces some of the greatest action into the lexicon, but it's John Woo at his best since Hard Boiled.
I think if you would have made this list, let's say, 2005, let's go back almost 15 years.
Yeah.
This would probably be a tier 1, tier 2 list. I feel like it was that big of an action movie during that time in the subsequent years, but at least in my opinion, the tier 4 is probably fine with me for that.
Yeah, I think it fits. My next one's Once Upon a Time in China Part 2, Jet Li, 1992. Basically just facing off of this really xenophobic crew when he goes back to China, this kind of cult-esque crew. But the fights, dude, just, if you haven't watched Once Upon a Time in China, even if you don't want to watch the movie, just YouTube all the fights. It'll blow your mind. I have it in tier 4, whereas I have Fist of Legend in tier 2, because I just think Fist of Legend is a little bit more sophisticated in its fight scenes. Does that make sense? A little newer, a little bit more influential. I think Once Upon a Time in China has amazing fight scenes, and it has to be in the top 5 tiers, but it's not as innovative. I think it's a better sequel, which is rare for action films, but I had to put it here. Last not least, you're going to be happy with this, and it's Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, this one's a stretch for me, because I don't know if it is in the top 25, but I put it in here because it's just a sweaty John McTiernan at his best action film with two actors who really like each other, Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis. And also a sequel, they took another script, as Simon says. But it's a sequel where I love the urgency to it. This sequel moves, and it's also very violent. But yeah, so I included this in here. I think it's tier 4 because it was a massive blockbuster. It was a very good third action film, and I love the urgency of it.
I think it's entirely underrated. Like, I don't even think it's got a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
63%.
Is it a 63?
I think so.
So it's gone up a little bit over the years. But I don't know. This is what started Die Hard for me.
Really?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in the Live Free or Die Hard podcast, but Die Hard 3 is the first one that I saw of the series. And so I was like 12 years old when I first watched it, and I watched it like 3 times that night.
52%. So
it's like, I don't know, again, this is my sentimentality of it, but I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. Like, for me, this is probably...
But it's big budget.
For me, it's probably got to be a tier 2. It's like, I think it's that good. I mean, it's got the ensemble cast that you don't see that often from action movies with Sam Jackson, Bruce Willis, Jeremy Irons, Graham Greene.
Yeah,
he's not necessarily a big star.
Yeah, but he's awesome.
But he's awesome in it. You know, then you've got all these like other like smaller secondary characters like in the police force. But
the giant bomb scene. It's a movie though. I think
it does everything right, really. For me, what were we talking about? It's almost like a big budget Desperado. Like, it doesn't do anything amazing, but what it does very well. Like, it does like the thrills, the car chases, the gunshots, like the gun fights. You know, you got like the fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And it's not kung fu. It's like guys just swinging at each other and picking up chains. Like, they're using stuff.
He fights that big guy on the boat.
He fights that big little man.
Yeah. I think this movie is... I could see it being underappreciated because just to create the tension that it does. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a pretty good marvel of editing.
Yeah.
If you think about it. I mean, you watch this movie and it's tense all the way through and you feel it.
It's the race against time when when they're in the cabbie, when they're in the taxi cab driving through Central Park, up and down the streets.
Except for that mime.
Yeah. Well,
trying to hit these people? Well, maybe that mime.
Yeah, I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. I love it.
And it's McTiernan's kind of his last really great... Well, he did Thomas Crown Affair, but I think it's his last really great action film. I did love 13th Warrior, though. That's a great movie.
Yeah, then when he came back and did, like, Basic.
Yeah.
And then that's been it.
That did well.
It did do well.
Jackson, Travolta. Yeah. I was working in a theater when that movie came out, and it kept selling out because other movies were selling out, so people just go watch it.
Well, I guess we'll go watch Basic.
That's like General's Daughter. That's how it made so much money. Everything else was selling out, so like, I'll just go see General's Daughter. Now, tier 5, which I think could be the most contested out of all my tiers, but I'm very happy with all these. And maybe this is my stretch one, but I'm very happy. So I have Blade, directed by Stephen Norrington. A lot of people think of Blade, and I don't think I don't think people remember how good the action in Blade is. How good the choreography and martial arts were. The final battle in the beginning
sword
fight.
Choreography?
Yeah. That sword fight, and then the beginning when he fights those henchmen, and at the end when he fights all those henchmen, I don't know how this movie has a Rotten Tomato meter score. And I just don't think...
Is it rotten?
Yeah, all 3 of them are. Well, the third one, of course. But the second one's rotten, too. Stupid. Now, you watch this movie, and watch it again if you haven't watched it in a while. The choreography is something else. I mean, it's really great. I love the choreography in this movie. And I think The Crow came out in 94, but I don't think the action in The Crow is great. I think The Crow is a very good mood piece and a very good introduction to R-rated comic book adaptations. Well, The Punisher came before that, but, Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren's
now,
Punisher.
This Blade, though, was a massive success. R-rated comic book movie. And then 2001, you had 2001, you had X-Men, but Blade, I think, kicked the door open.
Blade did kick it open. I don't know if we'd have a Deadpool without Blade.
I mean, this was a big R-rated success, and I think the blood rave,